Hi, I'm Rain. The coffee shop was empty except for my sister Ava sitting across from me, her eyes darting nervously to my bruised knuckles. You can't keep hiding this, Rain. How's Mason doing? Ava pushed her untouched latte forward. He's staying with my neighbor while I figure things out. That's all that matters. I wrapped my fingers around my cup, trying to hide the evidence of last night. What happened? You've been dodging my calls for 3 days. Ava leaned forward, lowering her voice. Dad happened. I dropped Mason off for the weekend. You know how Dad's been since Mom died? Always talking about making Mason tough enough for the real world. I couldn't meet her eyes. What did he do? Ava's voice hardened. Mason lost some school competition. A spelling bee. Dad said losing made us weak. That we needed discipline. And? I picked Mason up early. Found him kneeling on rice in Dad's garage. For hours, Ava. Hours. My voice cracked. His knees were bleeding. Ava's face drained of color. That's what he used to do to us. Mason wouldn't stop crying. Said Grandpa told him only weak boys cry. I gripped my cup tighter. When I confronted Dad, he said I was raising a soft kid who'd never survive in this world. What did you do? Ava whispered. I punched him, grabbed Mason and left. Ava's eyes widened. You punched Dad? Wouldn't you? Mason's only 8, Ava. Where is Dad now? Home, probably planning my son's next character-building exercise? I spat the words. Have you talked to anyone about this? Ava pulled out her phone. This is abuse, Rain. Who would believe us? Dad's the respected community leader, the decorated veteran. Everyone thinks he walks on water. Principal Torres would listen. She's dealt with Dad before with other students. What do you mean? I straightened in my chair. Dad volunteers at the school, right? Torres had to remove him from the mentoring program last year. Something about his methods being too harsh. Ava scrolled through her phone. She never made it public. Why didn't you tell me this before I left Mason with him? I thought it was just rumors. Dad's always been strict, but I never thought he'd hurt Mason. Tears formed in Ava's eyes. Well, now we know better. I stood up abruptly, knocking my chair backward. What are you going to do? Ava grabbed my wrist. Get evidence, document everything, then make sure he never comes near my son again. How? Dad has connections everywhere. Not everywhere. I picked up my phone, scrolling to a contact. Remember Dad's old army buddy, Detective Wilson? The one who always said Dad saved his life? Yeah? He has a grandson Mason's age. Let's see how he feels about Dad's parenting philosophy when he hears what happened. Rain, wait. No, Ava, I've waited too long already. Dad broke something yesterday, and it wasn't just Mason's trust. It was any chance of him being in our lives again. He made him kneel on rice? For how long? Detective Wilson's voice boomed through the phone. At least 3 hours. Mason said Grandpa checked on him every half hour, dumping more rice if he moved. Jesus Christ. The detective cleared his throat. Rain, you need to bring Mason to the station. We need photos, a statement. He's terrified, Michael. He thinks he did something wrong. He didn't. Your father did. Bring him in and we'll make it as easy as possible. 2 hours later, I sat in a bright room while a social worker named Tamara spoke softly to Mason. Can you tell me what happened at your grandpa's house? Tamara's voice was gentle. Mason looked at me, eyes wide with fear. I nodded encouragingly. I lost the spelling bee at school. Mason's voice was barely audible. Grandpa said I didn't practice enough. What happened then? He said I needed to learn that losing has consequences. Mason stared at his shoes. He made me kneel on rice in the garage and said I couldn't get up until I learned my lesson. Did he say anything else? That Mom makes me weak. That real men don't lose and real men don't cry. Mason's lip trembled. It hurt so bad, but he said if I cried, I'd have to stay longer. Tamara's professional demeanor cracked for just a moment before she composed herself. You're being very brave telling us this. In the hallway afterward, Detective Wilson pulled me aside. We've got enough for a restraining order, but I want more. More what? Evidence. Your father's done this before. My heart stopped. To who? Your dad ran a youth program at the VFW hall for years. I've heard rumors. Let me make some calls. Later that day, my phone rang. It was Principal Torres. Miss Brooks, this is Principal Torres. Your sister mentioned you might call. I need to know what happened with my father at the school. She hesitated. This is confidential, but given the circumstances, your father was removed from our mentor program after a student reported him forcing them to do physical punishments for incorrect answers. Kneeling on rice? I asked. Her sharp intake of breath confirmed it. How did you know? He did it to my son this weekend, and to me and my sister growing up. I'm so sorry. I should have reported it to authorities, but the parents didn't want to pursue it. The student transferred. I need that family's contact information. I can't provide that, but I can contact them. If they're willing to talk to you, I'll pass along your number. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Is this Rain Brooks? A woman's voice asked. Yes. My name is Diana Mendez. Your father hurt my son too. The next day, I sat in a coffee shop with Diana and 2 other parents I'd never met. Each had a similar story. He said my daughter was too soft. A man named James said, gripping his coffee cup, that she needed to learn discipline. He told my son that losing made him weak, Diana added. Sound familiar? Why didn't any of you press charges? I asked. Diana looked down. Your father threatened to say our parenting was the problem, that we were raising victims. He has friends in the department, James added. Not anymore, I said, pulling out my phone to show them Detective Wilson's text. We're building a case. Will you help? What do you need from us? Diana asked. Statements, photos if you have them, dates, details, everything. What about your sister? James asked. Will she testify? I don't know. I hesitated. She's afraid of him. We all were, Diana said softly. But not anymore. As I left the meeting, my phone rang. It was Ava. Dad just called me, she said, her voice shaking. He knows what you're doing. What did he say? That you've always been dramatic. That Mason needs to toughen up. That he'll fight for grandparent rights if you try to keep Mason from him. I gripped the phone tighter. Let him try. The community center was neutral ground, a public place where my father couldn't make a scene. I arrived early with Detective Wilson waiting discreetly in the corner. My father walked in at exactly 3 p.m., military punctual as always. Rain. He nodded curtly, taking a seat across from me. This dramatic production is unnecessary. We could have discussed this at home. Like we discussed what you did to Mason? I kept my voice level, remembering Detective Wilson's advice to stay calm. The boy needs discipline. You're raising him soft. Dad straightened his jacket. This generation doesn't understand that losing has consequences. Kneeling on rice for hours isn't discipline. It's abuse. Dad's face hardened. It builds character. It's what my father did to me and what I did to you and Ava. You turned out fine. Did we? Is that why Ava can't sleep without checking her locks 3 times? Why I flinch whenever someone raises their voice? I leaned forward. It didn't make us strong, Dad. It made us afraid. Better afraid than weak. He crossed his arms. What's your point in bringing me here? I placed a folder on the table. These are statements from 4 families, all describing how you abused their children in the same way. Rice on the knees, standing in corners for hours, withholding food. His face didn't change, but his eyes darted to the folder. Discipline isn't abuse. The law disagrees. I pushed the folder toward him. I've filed for a restraining order. You won't see Mason again. Don't be ridiculous. He scoffed. No judge will grant that. I'm his grandfather. A grandfather who made him bleed, who told him real men don't cry while he was in pain. My voice cracked despite my efforts. You broke something that can't be fixed. He'll thank me when he's older, when life gets hard and he's strong enough to handle it. No, he won't, because he won't know you anymore. Dad's facade cracked just for a moment. You can't keep my grandson from me. I have rights. Not after what you did. It was one lesson, one afternoon. It was abuse. Just like it was abuse when you did it to me and Ava. Just like it was abuse when you did it to those other kids. Dad's face reddened. Those parents are soft, just like you. They're raising victims. No, Dad. The only victim here was Mason, and there won't be any more. He slammed his hand on the table. You ungrateful. Watch your language, Detective Wilson said, approaching our table. Mr. Brooks, I'd advise you to stay calm. Dad's eyes widened. Michael, what are you doing here? My job. The detective's face was impassive. Supporting a mother protecting her child from abuse. This is ridiculous. We're family. Dad looked between us. Michael, we served together. You know me. I thought I did. Detective Wilson placed a hand on my shoulder. The restraining order is temporary, pending investigation. But based on the evidence we've collected, I'd expect it to become permanent. Dad stood abruptly. You'll regret this, Rain. When that boy of yours can't handle the real world, you'll remember I tried to help. The only thing I'll remember is finding my son bleeding while you told him not to cry. I stood to face him. We're done. Dad's face twisted in anger. He stepped toward me, finger pointed. You think you can just... Step back, Mr. Brooks, Detective Wilson warned. This is family business, Michael. Stay out of it. Not anymore. I gathered my things. Goodbye, Dad. This isn't over, Dad shouted as I walked away. I made you who you are. You think you can just cut me off? I'll show you what happens when you betray family. Detective Wilson stepped between us. That sounds like a threat, Mr. Brooks. It's a promise, Dad snarled, loud enough for everyone in the community center to hear. All rise, the bailiff announced as Judge Martinez entered the courtroom. I stood, glancing sideways at my father sitting stiffly at the defendant's table. 60 days had passed since that confrontation at the community center, where his threats had been witnessed by not only Detective Wilson, but also 3 community center employees who'd submitted statements. You okay? Ava whispered beside me, squeezing my hand. Better than okay, I whispered back. After the formal opening, the judge reviewed the case files. We're here regarding case number 24 CR 589, Brooks v. Brooks, regarding permanent restraining order and child endangerment charges. My lawyer, Miss Chen, stood. Your Honor, we have testimony from multiple witnesses detailing a pattern of abuse by the defendant. Dad's lawyer argued about family discipline and cultural differences, but the evidence was overwhelming. 4 other families had come forward. Principal Torres testified about the school incident. Photos of Mason's bloody knees were displayed. But the most powerful moment came when Ava took the stand. Miss Brooks, did your father ever subject you to similar punishment? Miss Chen asked. Ava's hands trembled. Yes, from age 6 until I left home at 17. Can you describe these punishments? Kneeling on rice, standing in corners for hours, being locked in the basement. Ava's voice strengthened. He called it discipline, but it was torture. And did you witness these punishments being administered to your sister, the plaintiff? Yes, frequently. Objection, Dad's lawyer called. Past family practices are not relevant to this case. On the contrary, Judge Martinez replied. They establish a pattern of behavior, overruled. When the testimony concluded, Judge Martinez rendered her decision immediately. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of physical and emotional abuse against a minor, with documented physical injuries. She looked directly at my father. Mr. Brooks, your actions constitute child endangerment and assault. The permanent restraining order is granted, prohibiting contact with both the minor child and his mother. Additionally, I'm sentencing you to 18 months probation and mandatory parenting and anger management classes. My father stood abruptly. This is outrageous! That's my grandson! Sir, any violation of this order will result in immediate imprisonment, the judge warned. Do you understand? After court adjourned, we gathered outside, me, Ava, Diana, James, and the other parents. It's really over, Diana said, disbelief in her voice. For all of us, I agreed. Detective Wilson approached. You did good, Rain. All of you did. Breaking the cycle isn't easy. What happens now? Ava asked. Dad will be supervised during his probation, I explained. And we heal. Later that evening, Mason and I sat on our porch swing, the restraining order papers safely filed away. Is Grandpa in jail? Mason asked. No, honey, but he can't see you anymore. He has to take classes to learn why what he did was wrong. Will I ever see him again? I looked at my son, his innocent eyes trusting me to make the right decision. Not unless he changes, Mason. And some people never do. Are you mad at me for losing the spelling bee? No, baby. Never. I pulled him close. Losing doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. From across the street, Ava waved, walking toward us with Detective Wilson and Miss Chen, bringing dinner as promised. We're going to be okay, aren't we, Mom? Mason asked. More than okay. I kissed the top of his head. We're going to be free. As our friends, our new family, approached, I wondered how many other children might still be suffering, kneeling on rice or standing in corners, believing they deserved pain for being imperfect. How many could we help? Have you ever had to stand up against someone everyone else thought was a hero? What did it cost you? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of courage and redemption.